everybody, and welcome to the Game Breakdown, the podcast where we break down all different kinds of games. How did that go? Did I do that
That was
good?
good. That was good.
I
Yeah,
thought we changed the tables and I'd do the intro today, and
that's it.
I hope I
And
pulled
you
it
can
off.
interrupt me for a change.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so today's topic is about game remasters, remakes, basically an original title that's been improved, or has
hmm
it? So that's the
Oh, good
topic.
question.
Um, so yeah, we're just gonna discuss, what we think worked, what we think didn't work, and here we go. Do
Yeah,
you want
here
to
we go.
start, or shall I start?
Oh, well, go on then. Are you taking charge today? You're going to start. Go for it.
I don't know what's happening. Okay,
Are you in the driver's seat
I
today?
feel like I am. Okay, I should have had a title. I looked at my paper.
Would you like me to start?
You start.
Me
I think
start.
the intro was enough for me.
That was too much pressure for you. Okay, that's fine. Right, so yeah, we thought we'd discuss some remakes today, and basically, we thought that we could have a little chat about remakes that we've really wanted for a long time. So certain games that we've loved for years and what have you, and just really would love to see remade. Because we think they need a graphical update, or because we think the story needs tweaking, or for whatever reason, something that we would like to see redone. So I've got a little list here, and you've got a little list, haven't
hmm
you? Okay,
Yes.
so I think first we should talk about the game that I think is probably going to be on both of our lists, which we've mentioned before. And I don't know if we're alone in this or not. And Twitter, please let us know if we are,
Yeah.
because I am dying for a Croc remake
Yes. Croc
so badly.
is always there for me. Like, I honestly would class it as like my favorite platformer. And
hmm
I don't know what it is about Croc. It just does it for me. I think it's
hmm
just the music, like it's so cute
Yeah,
and
it's
like
really cute.
yeah, and like charming. And I just feel like yeah, I don't know whether it was one of those games where not many people really knew about it because it almost feels like that, you know?
Yeah,
But then at the same time it's like I think it was originally meant to be a Nintendo title. It was meant to be like a Yoshi or something.
it gives off that kind of vibe, doesn't it? Straight away, you can
Yeah,
tell.
it's the
Cute
green
little
kid.
green
Yeah.
dinosaur, looks like Yoshi.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and then he collects the little. I'm gonna say gobos. I don't know how you pronounce it, but I think they're like
That's what I said
gobos.
the other day. I'm pretty sure it's Gobos, or I keep going to say Goombas, but that's Mario. So I'm gonna say Gobos with you. The little orange fluffy
The little
things.
orange fluffy things. So for
Yeah.
anyone that's never played Croc, you basically play as a little, yeah, like a little dragon with a little backpack. And in the first
Or a little
game,
crocodile as it's Croc.
oh yeah,
Oh my God. Crocodile. But okay, go on,
you
carry on.
play
That's fine.
Croc, who's a dinosaur. No,
You're doing amazing, sweetie.
oh my god, it's the same thing. A crocodile is a dinosaur. Come on. Okay, leave me alone. Whatever.
Okay, go for it. Carry on.
So for anyone that's never played Croc, you play as a crocodile and you have to collect gemstones and
Mhm.
collect and save these little like gobbo ginger furry creatures. Um yeah, and just eventually save them really. And it's just a platformer. There was like two games. I think most people played the first one.
Yeah,
And
I
then
never
this
played Croc 2.
Croc 2 was like such an improvement.
Well, don't know, like I played it, but it didn't like Croc One was for me the best one.
Yeah, that's the one that I remember the most.
Yeah, that's
I don't think I finished the second one, but like Croc 1 is extremely difficult. Like
hmm
and I think you can say that for most original platformers. Like you don't realize how tricky these games were until further on, and how like easy games feel now, especially platformers because like I think in the original ones you'd always end up like sliding off things or you wouldn't quite jump properly.
Yeah, that
Um
was I think the difficulty. I think that's not something that was really fine tuned, shall we say, until games like Tomb Raider came about,
mm,
where they had like you would have like like in Tomb Raider, you would have a square, and you know that if you started running, you held jump in the middle of that square, and when you got to the end of the square, she would jump, or like you could work out how to do it. Whereas Croc is really tricky because it's not on a grid like Tomb Raider is, and it's quite free flow, but
mm,
it's just like you press jump and it happens a few seconds later, so you might. when I went back to replay Croc as an adult, I did find it really hard. I kept falling off of surfaces where I kept getting the jumps wrong, or I was just badly misjudging where I was meant to land and
Hmm.
when I was meant to leap. And I died quite a few times. It took a lot of getting used to. And I thought, how did I do this as a kid? Because I was like 5 years old,
Yeah,
killing the game. Like,
I
and I don't know how I
know.
did
I ask myself that question like every time. I don't know what's changed. I do
that.
think it's the fact that games are a little bit more sensitive now, like the controls, whereas back then it was like there was no kind of like easing in. Like you either press the button and you moved or you didn't. Like you couldn't go slow or fast, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's like a mixture of that. But like it is like super hard. But I think that game would just benefit from a remake because everything you can do now, and also that was another thing, the camera didn't even move in Croc, so like you'd find yourself turning round and your camera would turn with you, but then you wouldn't be able to like turn round again because it
I
would
would
get
say it
stuck
moved
on a
forward,
wall.
didn't
Do you know?
it? Yeah.
Yeah, it would just get stuck on a wall rather than kind of phasing into it like we get now. So
Hmm.
yeah, Croc is definitely up there as may and I'm not going to say number one yet because I don't
Oh,
know by the end of this list, but it's definitely up there for sure.
I just think while they're busy remaking Crash Bandicoot and making a part four, remaking Spyro, while they're doing all of this, you might as well just complete the trilogy for me and remake Croc. Because I put Croc in the same category as I do Crash Bandicoot and
Yeah,
Spyro.
I do. I
Do you know what
definitely
I
do.
mean?
Yeah, those were like the three mascots of like my childhood was Spyro, Croc, and it was probably like for me it was like Croc, Spyro, and Crash, like in that
Yeah.
order. To be fair.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like Croc, I really enjoyed Spyro. I love Spyro. Really enjoyed Crash. Love Crash. But I have a lot of, I don't know, I just have a lot of more fond memories of Croc. I feel like Croc was so open, like open world, if you like, that you could explore. I liked the idea that I could explore. It's kind of the same reason I like Spyro, because Spyro is kind of like a PS1 version of open world, isn't it? You haven't got to rush to the end of a level. You can walk around and go and get your gems and explore and stuff. And I felt like as a kid that was more exciting to me. That, oh god, I can go into this part of the level and find this tree and I can go behind it. Whereas Crash is more like you've started. It's a bit like Mario, isn't it? You've started, you've got like a minute to finish the level and be done
Yeah,
and
like
get a top
you're
score.
pretty much when it comes to Crash, it's like you're set on a path, aren't you? And you've just got to
Yeah,
go straight and that and avoid the obstacles. Whereas with Croc, you could either jump down the little kind of the little wells, and you
yeah,
could
gave you options.
exactly you could run behind things, and same as Spyro, like you could if you could jump high enough and fly onto something, you'd get like I don't know, like a collectible, you know. So like yeah, there was it was a lot more adventure, wasn't it? And I remember when I first played Croc because it was like one of the first games I'd ever played.
Hmm.
I just remember playing it and then like I turned round and literally like my entire family were like all just watching me because I was so
Yes,
like immersed in it and they all were just looking at me and I was like hello and they were like you enjoying it? I was like yeah. Like I just loved it.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
I feel like Croc though is also one of those games where your family could sit and watch you.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was a child, my mum would let me play PlayStation, and after a while she'd be like, "Okay, you're done now. I want to watch TV." But
Mm.
if I was playing something like cute, like Croc or Crash something, she would sometimes sit and watch me, and then kind of like offer. I don't know if anyone else's parents did this. They'd like offer commentary from the back,
Yeah.
and they'd like ask you to do something that was completely not within like any of the game's capability. Like she'd be like, try jumping over there. Can't you like fly over there and do like a fucking back
I know.
handspring and a cartwheel? You're like, oh no, mum. And you'd like pretend to be like, oh, I've tried, but it doesn't work. Like
I know.
even though
Who's
you knew
that?
like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Who's that?
Who's
Why do
that?
you
What's he doing there? Talk to him.
yeah, talk to him? See if he knows where you gotta go. Does he know? And it's like it's not a real person. It's
It's an NPC, mum. God. Um, but like, no, I definitely feel like it was such a cute game. It allowed you to have that adventurous gameplay kind of thing going on, especially with the fact that you had to rescue the
Mhm.
the Gobbos, and like you could miss them out as well. And I would always feel really let down because that cutscene would play when you forgot one, and it was like that sad Gobbo in its cage still crying, like you forgot one. I was like, where is it?
I
Like,
know. You felt like you felt such a responsibility in that game to catch
yeah,
one. And if you did go, you were like, I've got to go back. I can't
yeah, I've got to
not.
go back.
Just got to get that gobbo. And it was sad because they're just like, and you'd pick them up and they'd be like, yay. And it was like, oh,
Yeah, yahoo! That was pretty cool. It was like yahoo! Like when he would like almost like a bit like Mario, like he would jump and
yeah.
make all these little like weird noises.
Yeah.
And do you remember when you had to transition from like the ground to the top floor thing? You would jump in the little spiral, like little whirlwind, and he would go like spin up in the
So
air,
good. Yeah.
which was obviously now looking back probably like a loading screen disguised as a
But you
fun little
never knew it.
activity.
Yeah.
No, that to me was magical. That shit was magic to me. I was like, oh my god, he's flying. Like
Yeah. 10 out of 10 Croc remake, please.
100% Co. If anyone, I don't even know who made, was that a core design or Crystal Dynamics? Who made that? Google it.
Googling.
Google it. Part of me
Croc.
wants to say core design. No, it wouldn't be core. Was it Crystal?
I just get pictures of fucking Crocs now.
Croc game. You have to Google like Croc PS1 90s.
Developed by Argonaut Games and published by Fox
Argonaut.
Interactive. Yeah.
Oh, Fox.
Mm.
That's actually Final
Yep.
Fantasy.
I meant to say. I meant to say. No, that's not it either.
That's what you meant to do.
Yeah.
I love that you went straight for Final Fantasy. That was brilliant. Considering you haven't
Okay.
finished number 7, that was brilliant.
Leave me alone. We're like how many episodes in, and I'm still going on about number 7.
Yeah, still going up again, number 7. Okay, so I have a second game. Do you have a second game?
I would love to see, and it might shock you, but I don't know.
Okay.
But I would love to see Tomb Raiders 1 to 3 remade.
Oh, interesting. Sorry about the boxes. I've just moved in.
Shaking the glasses. Oh, I should have never mind. I don't have glasses to shake to recreate it.
No.
Lock him in the fridge.
Lock him in the fridge. I completely agree with you. I know they've remade Tomb Raiders, and that's fine. I do like the Tomb Raider remakes. The latest one I haven't finished because they're very samey. I know all Tomb Raider games are kind of samey, but this one was kind of boring. But they are very good. But I really would like to see the originals with some of the original story put back in. Well, I did see something recently because I have no life and I was sitting watching loads of like Easter egg videos on YouTube and stuff. I did see that someone said that there was. Have you ever played the first remake of Tomb Raider?
I don't know.
You don't know. I love that you have to Google whether you've played it or not.
Well, I've played Tomb Raiders. I didn't know there was a remake of the first one. Am I just being a dick?
There was a remake of the first one. It's called Tomb Raider Anniversary. But have you played?
Oh, right. Yeah, no.
But have you played the PS4, PS3/4 version of the new generation of Tomb Raiders?
What is it? What, like definitive? No.
Yeah, there was one called Definitive Edition. I can't remember. I don't think it's got a subtitle. I think it's just Tomb Raider.
I've played the latest one, Shadow.
The one where she almost has that
yeah
assault scene.
Assault scene.
Yeah.
I know we shouldn't be laughing at assault.
We shouldn't be laughing at assault.
Sorry. It's like last podcast. I was like, no, who changes their fire alarm alarm batteries?
I know, and I have to keep editing out the beep, so please change it very soon.
I'm sorry. I don't think it's gone off yet, or has it?
It hasn't.
Maybe it's just given up.
Maybe that's it. Maybe there's a fire somewhere. Yeah, have you played the 2000 and whatever, I think 70, I've made that up. Have you played the remake of Tomb Raider on the PS3?
No.
Oh, well, I'm glad you chose this game. You're obviously really connected to the series.
Oh
anyway,
my god. Okay.
Right. It doesn't follow the original Tomb Raider story. It gives her a new origin story.
Oh, fan of the series. So it doesn't actually follow it.
No. I mean, it doesn't retell the original games. It gives her a new origin story, right? And the ending of the story, there was an alternate ending that was cut on the day of release through a patch. And it had at the end of this thing, after you complete all the missions, it was a final cutscene where Lara's in her study room, whatever, writing a letter to a person, and on her side is a letter from Jacqueline Natler. Now, if you're a fan of the Resident Evil, of the Tomb Raider series, you know that Jacqueline Natler is from the first couple of games, and she employs Lara to go and find these artifacts.
Right.
So the original idea was for them to lead into the original stories.
Oh,
but
okay.
They patched it out on the first day and replaced it with a different ending. And Jacqueline Natler is nowhere to be seen, which is quite sad. So I'm with you on that one. I'd like to see the original story put into place.
Yeah. I want to just go back round her house I'll be honest. I want to go on the assault course.
That's all I
I
did
want
though.
to,
I'd rarely ever play the main game. I'd
yeah.
wander around our house, and with every iteration, our house just got better and better.
It did,
You
didn't it?
could
It was
do
like
more in
more
it.
HD. I honestly used to find the games quite scary. There was something about them that
Okay,
really
yeah,
made me scary, like really made me scary,
it
made
made
me
you
scared. It
scary.
made me scary. And I don't know what it was. I think it was because I don't know, but I think it was fuck. I can't
God's sake.
words have left me
It's been a
today.
long week,
It's been a
everybody, and
rough
it's only
week. It's
Monday.
my show.
It's
Right. It used to scare me because I think it was dark. It was dark, and you just kind of hear the like growling, and it's just something about the sound effects were always very eerie. There was
yeah.
a lot of atmosphere when you went in places. Like you'd run into like this big open space, do some backflips, and then just like, "Row," and then you'd be avalanched by like
Rawr.
leopards, you know,
Yeah.
and you'd be shooting, backflipping, spread eagling, and like they wouldn't go down, and you'd be like, wait, I can't. So it's like from Chicago, you know,
I was
from
gonna say, what number was it? What?
7. I don't know.
No, which is like number the spread eagle. Anyway, sorry.
It was like that. You couldn't. Yeah, it used to freak me out. So I always find them really scary. Whereas the new ones, they don't really freak me out. You know. So.
One thing that used to scare me about Tomb Raider when I played the originals when I was younger, because they did also make me feel a bit, a bit funny. The very first one, I don't know if you remember, the very opening cutscene, which I can remember, is when you're being like led into the tomb by this little like Mexican man in like a
Mm,
poncho, and then it's quite sad. He gets attacked by wolves, and you try and
yeah.
save him, and he dies. But then you do some like circus buffoonery and end up like
Some
doing some
spread eagles.
gymnastics, some spread eagles and cartwheels, and you end up almost cheating your way into the tomb, but then the
Mm,
doors shut behind you. And
yeah.
I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm stuck in here. And it's so ridiculous. It's just a game. But I thought to myself, if that was me, I was Lara, I'd be really frightened because there is no way out and you have to just traverse this tomb. Like you can't just go home. And I used to find that quite frightening. And then when the bear, because of the biggest enemy in the very first game was that big bear that used to come out of nowhere, and he was quite frightening and quite
Yeah,
scary,
he
and he
was
took quite a
big.
lot of bullets to take down.
Exactly, he was big. I mean, you just had to survive. Like, you just have your little lighter, wouldn't you? And you'd be
Yeah,
like,
your
"This
little
is shit.
flares.
I ain't got a torch or nothing. I've just got this little lighter and flares." And you'd just be, yeah, until you could
I ain't
kind
got
of
no
find,
food.
yeah, I ain't got nothing. I've just got bears and darkness. Like it, yeah. That I remember that scene though. And
Hmm.
yeah, it actually kind of made me a bit sad because I was like, "Oh, this poor guy. Like, we've just trekked it all the way here. Like, the weather's
Yeah,
shit, but you got to get inside because it's not safe outside." The doors
probably
closed.
barely paid him anyway.
Yeah, exactly. The poor sod just didn't know what to expect, you know?
Eaten by
So,
wolves, what a way to go.
I
Also, I
know.
will say about Tomb Raider, I think it's very good, like Resident Evil. The music of Tomb Raider was really good and actually very frightening. So I can
Hmm.
still hear it. I'm not even going to bother humming it for you, but it's like quite a fast paced, like load of little beats. And
Hmm.
it's almost like she's rushing and it's quite scary music, I think, especially as a kid. And I feel like I can hear that playing over his death, like now as I'm thinking about it,
Over
and
his
it's
death.
over his death scene, and I'm thinking, oh God, that's really scary music. So like, yeah, I do miss Tomb Raiders, but I'm with you. I think I'd rather to have a Tomb Raider remake. I'd rather have a Tomb Raider Lara Croft Mansion remake. I just want to walk around our house.
Lara's mansion. Just
Croft
Lara's
Manor
mansion.
was just the one.
It was though, wasn't it? Croft Manor. I loved it. And like, I always used to get stuck in this room though. And like, I think it was on the first one, or it might have been the second one. But I went up and there was always this kind of little hall, like a little like dark door, and I'd walk into it, and
I know exactly what you're talking
I could
about.
never, like, my camera
The
would get
attic.
stuck. Yeah, so I think I needed to do something else, but instead I'd go in there and get stuck for like 10 minutes, and I must have just been just I just did something wrong and I just couldn't leave.
Did you ever manage to solve her manor and get the pistols and then do the ATV, the quad bike race?
No, mate. Though I am planning on
Oh,
playing them again. I'm gonna get them all downloaded and I'm going to play the shit out of them at some point because I just, yeah, I think they're quality games, and I feel like the fact that you used to go to a house, like you've now had this quad thing that I never experienced because let's just face it, I was just on the assault course. Do you know what I mean?
You
Like
were
unlocking the guy in the cupboard. That was all I did. So
butler in the fridge.
yeah, butler in the fridge, having a swim, assault course in it.
You used to really annoy me. I can't remember which one it is. I think it's two, where she was moving house. When you jumped in the pool and it ended everything, it should be like, time to get out of these wet clothes, and then the level would end. I'm like, oh, I've got to go back in her manor again.
I
Like,
know.
open up a little passport on the main screen. The quad bike was brilliant because you had to, if I remember right, you had to go into her loft. Is that how you used to do it? You had to go. Oh, okay. No, this is what you had to do. I might get some of this wrong, but you had to go into one of her rooms and there'd be a fireplace, and you press a switch and it would turn the fireplace off. Then you'd go up the fireplace and then you'd find another switch, and that would open a door in her lobby, and you had to sprint down the stairs to make it in time, jump over her banister and get in this door. And then when you
Right.
got in the door, you had to like go into her giant aquarium that she has under her house, that aquarium that we've all got,
Cash.
swim in the aquarium, get the key, come out, go round to the maze, figure out the maze, open up the gate, and then you get on the quad bike, and you can have
Right.
your guns and stuff, and you'd have to beat your own score. Like that, I thought was really cool because you had to search it out. I think there was another way where you can go into a different room and it'd unlock a room that was next to her stairs, a secret room, and there'd be all trophies in there. So all the things, I think there must have been Tomb Raider 3, and it had all the artifacts from Tomb Raider 1 and 2 in the room as like a little Easter egg for like long time fans, which I thought was really cool. But no,
I
I'd
like
love to
it.
see an original remake of the Tomb Raiders, like back to basics.
Yeah.
I'd like to see the original story.
Yeah. I mean, even though my mind's not necessarily clear, as we've
Hmm.
established,
Obviously.
I do have like fond memories of it. And like I have played them, but like it's been so long. And I think for most people that don't always have the means of playing the original games, they should just be brought back, because they were good. And like I think the Tomb Raider games that they do release, like it's good that the story, like obviously the series is still going, they do sell well, and I feel like they just sell even better if they remade the original ones.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think it's quite interesting. I Why do you think, just to have a pause for a moment, like
Hmm.
people want remakes? Because I know that we want them because we're like, quite dedicated gamers, and I'd say, oh, I missed the story, I missed the characters. But a lot of the time, you just said that you've not got, you don't remember the story really very well, but you just have fond memories of playing it. Do you think a lot of this is just like nostalgia? It's just like, oh, do you remember when we used to play Tomb Raider? How fun was that? I'd love a remake. Like, so do you think that actually then when you buy it, it's like, I don't know if I actually wanted this. I just really have fond memories of that time in my life and playing this game.
I think it could I think it could like honestly be like a 50-50. I think
Hmm.
sometimes games are better, no, aren't as good as maybe you imagine them to be because
Yeah.
like there might be you just don't understand it, the controls are more difficult and you think like, oh, this weren't as in depth or as detailed as I remember it. But
Yeah. You remember it differently.
I feel like on the same token, I think if they were to have the treatment and be done by right, like they'll be the best games ever because
Hmm.
you've got like you understand it, you know what to look for, like you kind of know what you get in. And I mean like we had this conversation earlier briefly where like if they were to bring out a remake of a game, so say there's like the same series and you had a remake of the game, but you had like the latest game coming out as well, I would
Yeah.
always buy the remake of the game just purely because I think it is like nostalgia, but it's also like how has it grown? Like how is
Yeah.
it gonna fare now? Because back then it was brilliant, and now they can do the graphical stuff. Because obviously back then games didn't have the graphics, so they had to be quite ingenious, and I think that's why we
Yeah.
had the mana and stuff like that because it was an
Hmm.
extra environment, wasn't it? That wasn't a big deal really.
Yeah.
Um, Whereas now it's like, yeah, they could do so much more. So I think it's a bit of everything, to be honest.
It's probably also the comfortability of knowing what you're after. I mean, just going off what you said first, I think a lot of people do remember who ask for remakes haven't played the original in such a long time that they have like a distorted memory of it, and
Hmm.
they remember it being so fun and really great and have fond memories, but they forget that they were probably like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 when they were playing this, and you don't remember it in the same way. And if you were to actually pick up the original now, sometimes you'd be pleasantly surprised, but sometimes you're like, what the fuck is this?
Or
Like,
maybe, yeah, or maybe it's sort of one of those things where I feel like you probably would, maybe it's not as good as you remember, but if, say, you were to give it to someone that had never heard of the series, they
yeah,
would look at it and be like, really? But
yeah,
to
you
you,
enjoy
you're
playing
like,
this?
this was top notch, you know?
Yeah.
And because it always left a good impression, I don't think that ages, you know? So it's
Hmm.
like, but yeah, if you were to show it to someone that didn't know the series, it's like, oh shit. So I appreciate when remakes happen because it brings new audiences and you can like talk about all the stuff with it, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing I was going to say is like, I think it comes to like comfortability. So, like, if, like we said, the conversation we had earlier on was if you heard they were releasing Metal Gear Solid 6, and if you heard they were also going to remake Metal Gear Solid 1, which would you rather have? And we both said straight away, I'd
Hmm.
rather just buy the remake of number one because I. Also, six is quite a lot of games. It's like I'm really not interested in where the story's going anymore. I want to relive the old days now. I want to go back and see how they can improve what I already know. Sometimes I find that more appealing. It's like why I enjoy the Resident Evil. So I like to see what they're gonna do with the raw ingredients, if you like. Because I look
Hmm.
at games like Resi and Tomb Raider, think they're like ace games. They're like fantastic games that just were a victim of the time, if you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
they just look they've aged well, but they just still like look like crap. Like you can't compare a PS1 QB game to like a modern, HD, almost realistic looking game. Do you know what I mean? You think I want to see that in today's graphics, in today's game style, in today's controls. You want to see something reinvented, whereas I don't really want. Like I would rather have them do another. I said before, a remake of Resident Evil One than I would Resident Evil 8. I'm
Hmm.
not really that excited for Resident Evil 8. Like I want to play it. I will definitely buy it and definitely have it. But if someone come to me and say, right, tomorrow you can have a new remake of RE1 or you can have RE8, I'd straight away go, no, RE1, please.
Yeah.
Because it's what I know, it's what I love, and it's what I would like to see go further. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I definitely think I think that's a general consensus. Like, I'd be surprised if people would want something new and unknown to something they adore
Hmm.
upgraded.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I guess it lies in, what you're putting your money to. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you kind of know what you're going to get with it. I know sometimes they go a bit off track, but
Hmm.
like, for the most part, you know exactly what you're getting. And just seeing that improvement in it's just like being a kid again, I guess, because it's like, oh my god, this is the first time I'm experiencing this game again, but it's new, but it's not new, you know. So
Yeah,
it's like, it's all that exciting stuff, which is why I said to you I was kind of gutted that I'd never played the Resident Evils before, like the originals before the remakes.
yeah.
But then obviously we discussed number three, decided maybe that was for the best with that one. But
Probably for
like,
the best for that one. Yeah.
other than that, yeah. So
That's what it's like with a lot of remakes. I think it's a double-edged sword because if you play the remake first and if you play the original first and you fall in love with it, you then have the problem where you're comparing the remake constantly and saying, "Well, this has never happened in the original. It doesn't live up to the standard, and the graphics might be better, but the story's rubbish or what have you." And if
mm,
you play the remakes first, you appreciate what's in front of you because that's all you've got. But then when you do go back and play the originals, like you did with Resident Evil 3, you're like, "Oh my god, there's like a shit ton of content that they just basically glazed over." So there's like it's ups and downs. You know what I mean? Some you could ask a new player and they'll be like, "Oh, the remake is fantastic," but you ask like a seasoned player who's been with the series for years, they'll be like, "It's trash."
yeah.
So it's apples and oranges, swings and roundabouts, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
But actually, speaking of like having fond memories of a game, it's bringing me to the game that I've written down on my list as my number two. Now,
Mm.
part of me wonders if you've actually played this before, but I think I would really like to see a remake of Pandemonium. Now, have you ever played Pandemonium? Okay, so you can't quite remember, but Pandemonium is just a really weird game, and that's why I really liked about it. It follows two characters. One is like a jester, a courtyard jester with the hat and everything. Um, I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I think it might be Felix, but I could be wrong. And it follows a sorceress who's his partner. I remember her name Nikki because she was one of my childhood crushes. She was great. So there's the jester and there's Nikki, and they basically are both magically inclined, and the stories were always really bizarre. It's like basically an evil character wants to destroy the land, and they are fighting against it. And usually they're both really irresponsible, so it's from their own doing. So Nikki's using a spell book, and she's to make fireworks, and she's doing what she shouldn't be doing. You know, let's try and blowing up this. Let's try and make that. And there's a spell there that says like basically do not read in case of X, Y, and Z. And he's like, I don't know, Nikki. I don't think you should do it. And she goes, oh, what's the worst that can happen? And she casts it and releases this giant monster. And then the whole game is spent you trying to work your way up to fight this monster. It's a linear platformer. So it's on rails in a sense. So your character, I can't even think how to explain it. Your character is on, you can only move left and right, but it's a 3D world. So your character will move in whatever direction they're going to, but you're really only pressing like two buttons. So you can literally move forward, move back, and jump and shoot a power. But like you can't like what's one of the words am I looking for? You can't move in any other dimensions. I can't go into the foreground, into the background. It's just left and right. It's like it's like a what do they call it? A 2D scroller, but it's 3D.
I see what you
Almost
mean.
like 2.5D, I think they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. It's like that. It was just a really fun game. It was nonsense. Like it wasn't a serious game whatsoever. It was very comical. And it was just a game that I used to play just to blow off steam. Like I thought it was just so funny and so stupid.
I feel like that gives it an even better reason though, because it's not like
Yes.
what everyone would expect. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? And it's like they could, it sounds pretty crazy. And it's
Yeah.
like they could just take that anywhere, couldn't they? So, especially
Hmm.
if like I was just looking at pictures because it looked familiar to me, but I mean, I may have just seen it in like passing, I don't know. But like looking at the different characters and things like that, I feel like that would be so crazy. Like, I just
Hmm.
think it would be a really, really good remake. So yeah, I can agree with that. But I think they're like the kind of the best ones. We always go for the really main named ones, popular ones, mainstream ones, whatever. Which
Yeah.
again is good. But like sometimes I think you need to give games like that a chance because I feel
Well,
like that would really suit today's kind of gamer. That sort of outlandish, you know?
like surreal
Hmm.
experience. I think another reason a game like that could do with a remake is because that is kind of almost like a blank canvas. Like the story is very wishy-washy, so that gives you the opportunity to take two like quite recognizable characters, I would say, from the PS1 um era, and give them a story, make it more interesting. Like obviously it was probably just drawn up as a throwaway game kind of thing. Now it can really become something. I mean, there was a part 2, Pandemonium 2, um and I think if I remember rightly, that was just you brought back the enemy. That's the one where the fireworks happened, I think, and you brought back the enemy from the first game. Like, whoops, look what we've done again. And it was like, let's go fix the world. Like it was very like blasé. And I think like that kind of game would be what everyone kind of would want right now. Like not necessarily there's a lot of serious story games that dominate the market, and we both love them. We both said that we love story detailed games, but I think it would be nice to just to have a couple of games that are just like just a bit shit, really. Just like what I mean, just like a bit
Yeah.
of like senseless fun. I think is also good without it being competitive, like a COD, for example.
Yeah, definitely. There's not a lot of. I mean, there's a fair share of like silly games, but not half as many because it's either like a battle royale kind of
Yeah,
situation, or it's a microtransaction, or it's free, but then it's not really free, and it's
yeah,
like there's just no kind of. I think the only closest thing we got to it was sort of like Fall Guys, which we
yeah. I was
spoke
gonna say.
about exactly. Other than that, it's like but I guess it's budgeting, it's stuff like that, so they've got to be certain, in they? And I guess with the bigger names, it's gonna take off. But
Hmm.
again, I feel like in the past, I don't know, like you said, maybe it was like nostalgia and our imaginations did half the work. But
Hmm.
I almost feel as though, yeah, games tried a little bit harder. It weren't all visuals, you know. That's not to say, obviously, like old games are better than new games because, like, there's some fucking bangers, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
No, I kind of agree with you there. I think a lot of, I don't know, a lot of reviewers, game reviewers, a lot of companies, a lot of developers love to say that that element of nostalgia is just like looking through a childhood lens and be like, you're remembering it differently, which is fine. I think that's true. But like you said, I also think games were a lot more ingenious back then. I mean, and they did things that shocked us for the time. I remember at the time playing PS1 games. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know that was going to happen. But not of like a story standpoint, but like, oh my God, I didn't think the game would be able to do that. Do you know what I mean? Whereas I never think that now about a game. And maybe technology's just come too far and you can do whatever you want now. So nothing is a surprise. But I feel like back then I almost knew that tech was limited. And when something happened, I was like, oh my God, how's that happening? Like it was all like I go back to Resident Evil 3 and like I don't know how far you've got in the game, so I'm not going to try and like spoil any like story related stuff. But there was like I said, there you could do things in so many different orders and have different scenes occur and meet different characters. But there was stuff like, I don't know if you've seen it yet, but like in Resident Evil 3, you could be running through the streets and you'd see Carlos running through the street opposite you. He would have no
Mm.
interaction with you or whatever, but it's almost like there's someone playing him as well. Like you're playing Jill and someone's playing him. And it felt like alive. I was like, oh my God, how's he doing stuff? He's actually fighting, he's doing other bits. And then you go through another room and you'll see Nick, you can hear Nikolai screaming, and you go over and you see him fighting zombies and running over. And you genuinely feel like that's such a clever thing because you feel like, oh my God, they're in the world with me and I'm actually competing with them or I'm actually helping them. Like things like that, you don't really see that in a lot of mainstream games anymore. I mean, even like the Resident Evil 3 remake, there was none of that.
Yeah.
It's everything was, I say scripted, but you know what I mean. It wasn't prescribed. You know what I mean? It wasn't like you in the original, you could play that game 10 times and have that situation happen in 4 different ways or not happen at all, depending on how long you spent in rooms. Whereas the remake, even though it's technology has come so much further, there's less of that ingenuity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think definitely it seems to be that way for like the remakes.
Hmm.
Um, I always felt like my favorite sort of companions in games is like definitely like in The Last of Us. I feel like that handled that
Hmm.
kind of really well. I mean, Ellie was a
Yeah.
bit trash, and to be fair, in the beginning of part two, I won't talk too much about it because you're still yet to play it,
Yeah. Sorry about that.
which I'm going to judge you for. But
Thank you.
yeah, I just enjoyed the AI and that. But like yeah, like you said, like when you think about Resis, which I think is probably like the remake on like everyone's lips, and it really is
Yeah.
like the Resi games. Um, since playing number three, obviously I'm not finished it yet, but I'm close. It's kind of like ouch, you know.
Hmm.
Like I don't know about two, but from playing it from a blind perspective, thought it was brilliant. But there's definitely like a lot of pressure to feel. But I guess yeah, like we said, they had to really pull out all the stops, didn't they, back in the day? Whereas now it's kind of like I guess maybe people expect you to be grateful for a remake. Because like let's take a look at
Yes.
Prince of Persia, mate. Let's talk about
Oh
that.
yes. Let's.
I know
One of
we're
our favorite games, I might add.
yeah, we've detracted from obviously the list at the moment, but Prince of Persia was a huge favorite of ours. It was just
Hmm.
like there was just something. I mean, you could rewind time, and that was like never really. I'd
That
never
was
seen it
mind
before
blowing,
in a
wasn't
game.
it?
Yeah, it was. It was because even though no matter what you did, you rewind time, you completely did it again. And I used to think, no
Yeah.
matter what I'm doing, like it's copying it, and it's like this is insane.
Yeah.
And from the images, I know we shouldn't say about graphics, but if you're going to remake something like that, do it right and do it
Yeah.
fucking good. Especially when you look at games like Resident Evil, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, come on now, sort it out. So we're yet to play it, so I guess we can't pass too much judgment. For at
Hmm.
first impressions, I'm a bit like not blown away. And I'm actually gutted because obviously when I heard about it before I saw the images, I was so excited about imagining all
Oh,
that.
I haven't seen images. Have images been released?
Hmm.
Oh, you need to share them with me. Then we'll have a little look and judge these.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do a whole podcast talking about that because I'd really be interested. Because Prince of Persia, for everyone listening, is like we loved that game and we used to play it so much. I remember that was probably one of the first games that we like started to play when we first became friends. I remember borrowing you the first one, and then did you get the second one? Like literally, we were just like sharing them throughout the
Yeah.
entirety. Yeah,
Yeah.
we loved Prince of Persia, and they did remake it already. And I say remake; it was probably more of a reimagining, to be fair, because it didn't follow any of the original stories. Um, and that was a game that I played.
I need to show you
It was interesting.
the Sounds of
Yeah.
Time images. I hope you're prepared.
So it's actually called The Sands of Time. It's a proper remake of the first one. Do you remember at the end and he's like, call me Kakalukia? That bit always made me
Yeah,
laugh because it came out of nowhere.
it's true.
Okay, show me these pictures.
Show me the money, honey.
Show me the money. Oh, I'm nervous now. Is it actual trash?
Oh, you can't really see.
No, that can't be right.
Hmm.
That looks like the original though, but that looks like shit. That looks like PS2
Unfortunately,
gameplay.
it's yeah.
Wait, are they releasing? No. Are you being like that? Can't be it. That can't be right. You're telling me that they're saying that is. Why does this look like a mobile app? Like, I'm not even joking. This looks like it was powered by like. I feel like I can buy this on the App Store. Oh wow, this looks terrible. Oh no, I'm upset now. Also, they've made him look in this screenshot really Americanized. Like he looks like Matthew McConaughey. Like, do you know what I mean? He doesn't look like because where the game's set in like obviously Persia, Prince of Persia. That's where the first one is set. Oh god, I hope that's correct. I hope it's set in Persia. Obviously, he's not American. He's you know Persian. So why does he look like that?
either
Oh, are we just
way,
whitewashing more games?
either way, I feel like yeah. Let's not go too neg, but
Oh, and that's meant to be the uh Maharaja. Oh no. Okay. We'll
so I
cut
was
some
a
of that
little
one.
bit yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
I was a little bit let down by the Prince of Persia images. I thought I was expecting a bit more, especially like in this day and age. Like, don't get me wrong, you know, I guess if it's kind of not too expensive, I'd
No,
be
I'm gonna get you wrong because you're trying to make an excuse there, and I'm gonna stop you before you even make
oh
it.
my
It looks like
god.
shit.
But yeah, I know, but like the game was good. But yeah, maybe I couldn't forgive it for that. Yeah.
No, I'm really sorry,
I
but
might as well
it's
just play the original and save
literally
myself an absolute fortune on what's probably going to cost 60 quid for, you know.
it's 2020, and realistically, that's gonna come out in 2021, and it's gonna look like that. They've got the audacity to release that on the PS5 and Xbox, whatever they want to call it now, in 2021. They want to release that game looking like that. Absolutely not. Like if they do that, if that is not, if that's an actual, I hope that's like previs or something. Like you know how they do the previs first, and it's usually like a really shoddy looking version of what it will finally be. If that is what comes out on the console, my lord, I will be so extremely disappointed.
Can we
It's like
just
the
turn
Prince of
back
Persia.
time?
Can we
Like,
just turn back time? Turn back time, like Cher, because I'm just not. I mean, have you ever seen the Prince of Persia film?
no.
Well, like exactly, like that's why you haven't seen it because it's that bad. Like how
I
much
heard bad
more?
things.
How many more nails do they need to put in the Prince of Persia coffin? Like which one's going to finish him off? Because anyway, we're deviating, but I'm
Let's
just
get
upset.
back to the list and forget
Back
this
to the
horrible
list.
mess.
I've got a number three. I did have a fourth one, um, but I realized it was remade not too long ago. I say not too long ago. It was remade like 7 years ago.
What one?
Mickey Mouse Castle of Illusions for the oh my god, what did I have it on? Did I have it on the Sega? I think it was on the Sega. I bloody loved that game, but
I'm
they
gonna
remade it
join
already.
you. I know it's on like a Sega and everything, but like, not that that matters.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna join you and say I always wanted Mickey Mouse Wild Adventures, which was
Oh, the PS1 game. That was
hmm
yes, I loved that one.
yeah. I mean, I don't really feel okay. So before we go any further, I feel like there's certain games that don't need it, and because that is essentially a 2D game,
Yeah,
those are ageless. Same as
yeah, it
like
doesn't need updating.
yeah, same as like Minish Cap. I would like a re-release of it because it's
Mm-hmm.
so good. It doesn't need to
Because you're
be remade.
greedy, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was a short one.
That was that. No, I agree. I love that game, but that I think is. I feel like Disney games were quite a big thing on consoles. Like there's a lot of Disney games that really did a fantastic job and we all love, like the Mickey Mouse games, Bugs Life, all those kind of games where you like, or Pixar games rather, not just
I
Disney.
would love Toy Story
Yes, Toy Story.
because you like started in the garden and then you went
Toy
into the
Story 2, wasn't
garage.
it?
Yeah, and then you went
Yeah,
into
I
the
bloody love that.
bedroom. I was like, yes, like I'm definitely playing that again on my Vita at some point because I was like, that was
That
spot
was
on.
Toy Story 2 was a fantastic game. I'd love to see that remade.
Can you
See, and
imagine?
they could easily do that because they've done Kingdom Hearts and they've given those licenses over. So Disney would be well and truly open to giving that license back out because Kingdom Hearts is such a success. So obviously they know that Disney can pull a big audience. fair enough. I mean, they could have even done it with the release of Toy Story 4.
That's what I mean. The films are still going, and it
Yeah,
almost feels like a missed opportunity to just kind of bring that in, because that for me was bloody brilliant. There was
yeah.
another one that they had, and you kind of was in
You're going to talk about the first one that was on like PC, and you were in like Andy's room, and you had to use
no,
Woody's
but
little
that was
thing to swing.
amazing. It
Do you
was like a
remember what I'm talking
side
about?
scroller,
What was that called?
and you
Find
had
it
the
now.
car. Oh my god,
Yeah.
find it.
Buzz could like jump over Andy's like cabinets and dressers, and
I think
Woody
it's
used to
probably
have his
just
little.
Toy Story.
It probably is. It came out years ago. I used to have it on like Windows 95. Like it was old. All I remember is Andy's room with clouds everywhere. That was like, and it was like a scrolling
Are you
background of the
ready?
same thing.
And it
Go
was
on, go for it.
solid, but it was fucking good. I got it. I think I got it like super cheap from like Toys R Us. Like my mum
So
picked
did
it up
I.
for me, and I was just obsessed alongside like OG Sims.
That is the one. What's it called?
Toy Story.
Okay. Wow, really? You sure? Um, oh my lord. There must be an old ROM of floating about. That's it.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that just
I wonder if
took me
we can get some
somewhere.
sound for people.
Oh my god, that just took me back to like 1995.
Absolute banger.
Banger.
But the Toy Story games were solid. Every single one of them was solid. Toy Story 3 was great. I don't know if you ever played that one.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. That was a really good one.
Yeah, and you had to get the aliens all like sorted out in their little like houses. And no, it wasn't
Yeah,
aliens. Well, maybe it was. I can't remember.
the
But
little,
like
yeah,
little things. Yeah,
yeah, I can't,
so
the
good.
claw, those things
So yeah, they should have brought it out though. Like they've all been good, but Toy Story 2 game was awesome, and obviously
was
that one was
awesome.
so good. And
But also,
Bugs
like,
Life.
yeah, like all those old Disney games, like need re-release. And I'm saying the fact that they released Toy Story 4 and have I made it up? Is there a Toy Story 5?
Not yet.
Not yet. Well, the most latest one that come out. Like either way, you're introducing again a new generation of children into Toy Story. Like a game would have been like, do you know what I feel like in my head? I'm very much a noughties marketer. Like you have a good film, great, make it a game. You have a great game, great, make it a film. Like, do you know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
pimp that idea out as much as you can to every hoe that wants it.
Yeah.
So you have a good book, lovely. Make a game about the book, make a film about the book, do some posters of the book, do like sell drawings of the book. Like I feel like in the noughties, game concepts were like marketed and pushed in like were like in every direction. Like everything was monetized. Like they would always find a way to do everything. And I feel like the thing that YouTube kids are doing now, like noughties films and games were doing then but don't do anymore, because now we have like great films that come out and there's not a game about it. Do you remember when like the second a Spider-Man film come out, it was like, guess what, there's a Spider-Man game coming out 2 weeks later?
Hmm.
Like, or even before the film that would follow the same story and would spoil it all for you. Like if I remember rightly, I think one of the Spider-Mans came out before the film did and had the exact same storyline. Like things like that, like you don't see that anymore, where they just they drop a film then they drop a game based on the film.
Yeah, I used to love. Do you remember Roadrunner?
What from
It was like Looney Tunes. It was like
Yeah, Looney
cartoon.
Tunes, Coyote Wiley,
Yeah,
Wiley Coyote, whatever.
there was a Coyote game, and it was brilliant.
Oh,
Like
I don't remember that.
I adored it. It wasn't really well known, but I used to be obsessed with that program. I don't know what it was about it. I just loved it. I loved him. I thought he was just the cutest
Meep
thing.
meep. Yeah.
And yeah, it was brilliant. So like I agree with you. I feel like give us some yeah remasters of these games, because if you're not going to make anything, like just bring them back, because there's no Disney games really anymore that I can
No.
think of. Like, and out of all the kind of, I guess out of all of the platforms you'd expect there to be Disney games on, is either PC, like on
Yeah.
Steam, or Switch. Like, I feel like Switch, like, because Nintendo, like Game Boy used to do so many Disney games, like
Hmm.
2D games, and it's like they're not doing them anymore. I don't know where that went. One day they were constant back to back. There was a game for everything, like you said, and now it's like they've gone. So
Yeah.
would love that. Would love some Disney remakes and remasters.
I agree. I think they should just remake all the Disney games, because also, just a side note before we move on very quickly, Hercules.
Oh,
Right, exactly. That facial reaction is everything I needed to know. Like
hard,
hard
hard,
game, but bloody brilliant game.
brilliant, and
Can't tell you how many
timeless,
times I played that.
timeless
Timeless.
visuals. So re-release, please.
Re-release. If you could just re-release Bugs Life, Hercules, Toy Story, and what was
Coyote.
Wile E. Coyote, whatever game that Carrie's thinking of,
Hmm.
and the original one we started off with, Mickey Mouse. If you could re-release that again as well, remaster it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Um,
Yeah.
okay, I have a number three.
Hmm.
Or do you have a number three? Because technically Mickey Mouse was my one, so it's your turn.
I would really love a Silent Hill remake.
Oh,
Oh, you've not played it, have you?
I haven't, but I know how iconic the series is, and I'm quite sad for you, only because you almost got one,
Yeah. Well, it
which
wasn't
makes
a
me feel like you
remake.
probably
It
won't
was
get
a
one now.
no. The thing I loved about that was it's sort of like you said. I mean, I feel like Resi and Silent Hill were like almost interchangeable titles. You know, like
Hmm.
when you think about that era of gaming, those two. Fair enough that probably the user bases were quite different. It was one or the other, but they were basically back to back. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like why not remake them, because they were fantastic, they were absolutely terrifying. And it was like, in comparison to Resident Evil was more survival, whereas even though technically Silent Hill was meant to be survival, it almost felt as though it was more like just escape and like, right, like there was just, it was just all kind of like atmospheric, you know,
Yeah.
like the music, the sounds were awful, the characters are all so out of this world, like just the different creations that they made was just ridiculous.
Aren't they all based on sins or something? You were telling me,
Yeah, it's like it's got a
or
really dark
fears.
history, so it's all based on like, yeah, like experiences and like sins and things like that. So
Hmm.
um basically the nurses is probably the like
Most
risky but
iconic villain.
safest
Even I know
option.
them.
Yeah, they were formed out of his sexual depravity, however you say it.
Depravity. Yeah.
Yeah, because he couldn't sleep with his wife. So it was like he just started viewing the nurses like in sexual ways, and that was how they were formed. And speaking of Silent Hill, though, we were talking about films previously. The Silent Hill films are really good. Have you ever seen?
Have I ever seen them? I feel like I have. Um, Not in a long time, so I can't. Wait, is there more than one? Is there just
Two.
one film? There's
There's
two of them.
yeah.
I haven't seen the second one, but I've seen the first one. I did
Hmm.
like it, and I've never played the game, so it was to me just a film. Like I just got to enjoy the film as it was. So it was still. I did quite like it. I thought it was all right.
Yeah, it doesn't have any kind of particularly direct relation to the
Hmm.
games, but it is set
Like the
obviously.
Resident Evil films.
Yeah, but it is set in it is set in Silent Hill. The stories are kind of similar. There's a lot of similarities, but it's not essentially like the game, you know? Not
Yeah.
like Disney styly.
We need to
But
do another episode talking about games that became films because I have so many opinions about so many films as well. As I mean, you're my shocker. I have opinions about things. Um, but yeah, we need to talk about that very soon because the Resident Evil films and the Final Fantasy films need discussing. Anyway,
100% a future episode. So yeah,
100%.
that would be my mine. What's yours?
That's yours. My last one that I've got down here is, see, I don't think you'd have played it, so I'm not sure, is Code Veronica.
You
Now,
know I
do you know what
haven't
Code
played
Veronica
this
is?
yet.
I
Yeah.
know you haven't played it. I'm hoping you will because
I have it.
I'm.
I've been gifted it, so I need to play
Oh,
it. I just
that's even
need
more
to
reason to play it.
get my wires fixed for my PS2 so I can plug that bad boy in.
You definitely do. It is on PS Now, just so you know as well, um,
Ooh.
which is interesting for you. Code Veronica is a really good game. I personally am not a fan of Resident Evil 4. So to me, this feels like the actual Resident Evil 4. I feel like this is where the
That's
story stops
interesting.
being. Oh, go on, why?
No, I'm just saying that's interesting because obviously
Yeah,
I
that,
now kind of know, and like I've started Resi 4. I'm not massively into it because it's quite a big game, but like
I didn't like it.
I know enough to form an opinion based on the previous games.
Okay.
So it's quite interesting to me that you feel like it that Veronica's more of a number 4 than actual number 4. So yeah, now I really want to play it. So I'm thinking like, how is it? What does it just follow the same formula as like 1 and 2 more? 1, 2,
Kind
3.
of, yeah,
Mm.
it does kind of follow the thing. I mean, the basic premise without any spoilers is that it has more it has more to do with the previous game. So Claire is, you know, that at the end of Resident Evil 2, Claire has that dramatic ending. It's more dramatic in the original. You need to get to the end of the original where he goes, we're finally free or whatever, and then Claire goes, no, I have to find my brother, and then it'll like cut. It's really dramatic. So obviously she's looking for Chris. So her thing is that she's searching for Chris and she's following up on a lead. She hears that Chris has gone to this island, so Claire goes to this island to find Chris, and then more things ensue over the island. It has more of a tie back to the games because it involves Claire, it involves Chris, like they're both in it. It involves Wesker. It's like a proper link to all the original Resident Evils. And there's loads of rumors about that Code Veronica was actually supposed to be the original Resident Evil 3 and that Resi 3 was a spin-off title. That was later like debunked, and Resident Evil 3 was always meant to be Resident Evil 3. But Jill was meant to be the lead in Code Veronica. That's how it was meant to be. And then they decided to actually put Jill in that one and have Claire pop up because they thought that Jill would have been overused in 1, 3, and then a fourth one, which you can never use too much Jill, to be honest with you. Jill
There's
could
not
be in all
enough
of
Jill
them.
now. We ain't got Jill at all. It was
No,
like,
exactly.
let's have loads of Jill to fuck off Jill. Like, where's Jill?
Exactly. I'm just starving for a
Jill.
Jill sandwich. But either way, but it's still used. It's a PS2 game. It still uses tank controls. Which, okay, take it or leave it. They're obviously very refined, so they're much better than what they were on Resi 3 and 2 and 1 and stuff.
It just takes a little while, doesn't it? But once you've been playing with tank controls for like at least 15-20 minutes, it almost becomes second nature. Like,
it is. It's so easy, and people forget. Like, people say like, oh, tank is so difficult, but that was what we had. There wasn't really much freeform controlling in the 90s. Tank controls was like a revolution. It was like, oh my God, I can like turn my character and walk around in the 3D world. Like, people forget that 3D was new. That was 3D gaming. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, PS1 was the kind of first, not really the first, but one of the first consoles to experiment with such detailed, refined 3D.
Because you sort of went from like your 2D games and your top-down games, and then you sort of moved into like an isometric kind of era that was sort of like entering the 3D, but it was the best you could do to create a 3D environment with 2D. And then we got 3D. So the controls needed time to catch up because camera wasn't even a thing. So a lot of the time fixed cameras were just the norm. And it was easier to have tank controls in a fixed camera environment than it would be a free flowing.
Well, that's it. And your D-pad changed because your D-pad, the up button, literally would move you up and down, left and right on your screen because you couldn't move in the third dimension. And when the PS1 came and other 3D consoles, that up button then became really a back button, moving you back into the background. So, like, you know, controls, like you said, had to catch up, and I think they did a really good job. And like, when you see them, if you play Resi 1, the original, when you eventually get to it and you compare it to the tank controls in Resi 3, you'll see how they really refined it. And if you played Code Veronica, you'll see again how they refined it even further, and it started to bleed into that can we move freeform kind of thing. But all that aside, Code Veronica is just a really good story, a really good game. And I feel like it's a really good story that could be like expanded a little bit more and add a bit more depth and a bit more detail and possibly include some other characters and stuff, because there's like mentions of stuff like when Claire is like, you know, in the middle of something, it's like she emails Leon, and obviously you don't see Leon, you don't hear from him. It's just a throwaway scene. Like, I'm emailing my friend Leon to get me help. Whereas like, they could really build on that now and have like a proper little connection of like, you know, a little cutscene even of like Leon getting the email and trying to find Chris, and like just you know what I mean? They could really just make it a bit more fan servicey and a bit more exciting. But yeah, I'd really like to see Code Veronica remade because that game is just really, really cool. And I think it deserves a remake more than Resident Evil 4 does, because Resident Evil 4 is like, it's a further along generation. Like, I don't think Resident Evil 4 needs it.
You're just not a fan, babes.
I'm just not a fan. I'm really sorry.
Everyone's going to drag me. You have to accept it, all right?
No, sorry, I can't. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry, everybody.
Such a stubborn bastard.
I am. I'm really sorry about that. So I am.
Okay, so it's my turn.
It is.
And I don't know. Like, actually, no, I do know. But it might like surprise you, because it was it just came to me like last minute, and I was like, no, I want this. And all I'm saying is, barefoot and pregnant again, just like my daddy. Give me San Andreas.
Oh my God, San Andreas.
I know it's been ported, but that game now would be insane. Like getting really fat, getting tattoos. Come on.
Barefoot and pregnant again, just like my daddy. Oh my god. CJ. I loved San Andreas. San Andreas is probably one of the only Grand Theft Autos that I played completely.
Hmm.
Like, I did every mission, I did every side mission. I wore that game out. I played it until there was nothing left. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we used to play that one together. Do you remember that was the first one to have co-op?
I was always the whore trying to
You were
balance on the
always the
plane.
whore. Nothing changes. Balancing on that, we'd spawn in a plane. You would jump on the plane, and we'd try and fly. I don't even know why we did this. We'd try
I
and
used to try
fly
and balance on the
over.
wing for like,
Yes,
we do it for like hours, and that's all
and
we
then we'd
do.
parachute off.
Yeah.
I loved that game. That game was bloody brilliant.
Yeah. Give me San Andreas 2, not 2, remake.
Not two, just a remake.
I mean, or
Oh
2
wow,
if you want to, but like, no, that would just be weird. San Andreas, so
San
good.
Andreas. It's interesting you say that because the latest news that's leaked from, I say latest now, it's quite old news now, but the news that leaked from the Gaming Bible and stuff, what, like before lockdown, quite a while ago, is that all those maps are going to be included in this upcoming GTA 6, and that San Andreas will be in GTA 6. However, did you see the thing that leaked the other day? I don't think it's a real. I think it's a prank. They leaked a map was leaked from GTA 6, and it's really small, and it looks like to me a Bigfoot, like the foot of a Bigfoot, and I think it was an accidentally on purpose leaked as a joke because there's that
Right.
whole thing in Grand Theft Auto about
Yeah.
there being a Sasquatch. A lot of Twitter was taking it really serious, like, "Oh my god, this map looks really crap," and I was like, "I don't think it's really a map. I think it's a joke." But okay, whatever. But
So
I would, yeah, I'd be down for that.
that was probably like, as you know, like I'm obsessed with customization, and I
Yeah,
think
same.
like yeah, exactly, like we spend hours getting our characters ready.
Hmm.
That was the game for me that did not miss a thing, and to say it was a PS2 game,
It's
and
insane.
the fact that, yeah, like not any game has done anything like that. Tell
Nope.
me a game where you can get tattoos all over your body, get your hair cut, get really fat, all the clothes fit you, get really skinny, go work out in a gym, buy
Get muscular.
houses.
Yep.
You could buy houses, you could own territories,
Yep.
you could ride bikes. Like that was, I was buzzing when I
That
could
was
ride a
new, wasn't
bike.
it? Riding a bike. Oh my god.
Yeah,
A pedal bike as well, because Vice
bikes.
City
Yeah,
introduced motorbikes, didn't it?
yeah. Motorbikes were a
Yeah.
massive thing with that one, and then Sandres, it was like shit pedal bike, and there was that glitch that you could like hold down
Oh,
square
on the
and
BMX.
you'd like
Yeah.
melt, you'd like melt and twist around, and then you could
Yeah.
do really high jumps, and all the cheats, and that game was so explored back then. Like obviously we spoke before about how, for some reason, gaming these days, it's like we have to be so secret and you can't know nothing. Whereas
Yeah.
back then they had cheats up before the game was released.
Yeah.
I just remember the advert and I used to get so excited, and it was like, "Welcome to the jungle." And I used to be like, "Oh."
Yes.
And yeah, I love that, and I just feel like because they obviously technically like remastered and ported LA Noire, which was another Rockstar title.
Hmm.
Brilliant game, but I want a proper like remake of San Andreas, because I don't I have enjoyed like GTA's after that, but nothing compares to that at
No.
all. And I just think, come on, man. Like, if you're gonna do a remaster once in your life, for me, it's got to be San Andreas. I know for a lot of people it's Vice City, but San Andreas for me just does it.
I'll have two number nines, a number 14 large, another number nine. I just love that. I will say, and I don't think that's a nostalgia thing because let's face it, all of the Grand Theft Autos are essentially the same game, aren't they? It's the same thing. There's not really too much of a difference, bar the storyline, if you like. Uh, All GTAs, you can basically do the same thing. It's just the same game that kind of gets, in quotes, better each time.
Hmm.
So that to me isn't a nostalgia thing because really it wouldn't matter if San Andreas was a good game because the next one would be just as good because it's the same thing. Like San Andreas had such a good story in it that really did keep me coming back. And the Grand Theft Auto stories are usually quite crap, aren't they? It's usually the same thing. It's usually some kind of drug cartel or some kind of like gun laundering cartel. It's very similar. But that one was just so good. And I
It
think
was
like
rags
how
to riches, wasn't it? Like,
proper rags to riches and like how you could have certain girlfriends, and certain girlfriends preferred certain body types, and those certain girlfriends could tie into the main story, and you could know certain characters, what were they going to do, like everything linked into it, and it really did feel like a live city. And the fact that you could sometimes see your girlfriends out on the street
You could take them on
walking,
dates. You
yeah,
could
take
take
them on
them for
dates,
food. Yeah.
but
And
even sometimes see them walking around in the street in
yeah.
real time. Like, what the hell are you doing out here? Like, you shouldn't be allowed out. You're meant to be in
I
that
know,
house where I
yeah.
come and press the button and then get you. Like, what? Like, that kind of thing I thought was so great. I mean, I love Vice City, and I think I loved Vice City because of the 80s vibe.
Mm,
It wasn't necessarily a fantastic game. It was just, it had 80s music, 80s clubs. That's what I loved about it.
mm.
If they could, put a bit of an 80s DLC into the San Andreas remake that we've just planned, then, fuck it. They can have as much money
Come on,
as they want off of
Rockstar.
me.
Yeah. I mean, we don't know what's coming from them.
No.
Um, I would like to think with the new capabilities of next gen that they would, do some PS2 stuff and get us some
Hmm.
customization.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I would love that because I just feel like I need it. Like I need some of that kind of goodness in the GTA games.
Yeah.
But yes, Vice City was good, but purely for the 80s environment.
Hmm.
The gameplay and everything was again pretty generic, I think. I don't think it was
It was the same, wasn't it?
yeah.
There was only slight graphical updates. I mean, the one thing that I remember noticing about Vice City is when you got on a bike and you drove, this sounds really bizarre, but his shirt used to blow about as you
Yeah.
were driving. And I remember thinking, oh, wow, like that's really stepped up.
Isn't it
Like,
amazing when you look back and you think of stuff like that and how amazed we were at like flapping shirts and
yeah,
bikes?
the stupid shit that you notice being like, wow, how amazing. When, like, realistically, that adds nothing to my game. But yeah, I remember that it was a step up slightly graphically. And some of the songs were more actual pop songs, because I love GTA 3's music as well, because a lot of that was the soundtrack to Scarface, which I used to love, like all that kind of like She's on Fire, all that kind of stuff, like
She's
those
on
kind of tunes.
fire. There was
Mm.
actually a Scarface game and that was pretty good.
I did play the Scarface game. It wasn't
Yeah.
bad. It wasn't
Mm.
bad. There was that little Easter egg in Vice City. Do you remember you'd go to apartment 47 or 43, whatever it is, and you could find the chainsaw in the bath, which was from Scarface.
Some good stuff, man.
I do love the Grand Theft Autos.
Yeah. I'm
Anyway.
a huge fan of them, but yeah.
Hmm.
That's that I'd say that was like I'm happy to end it with San Andre.
And do you know what? That's a good one to end it with. That was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Well done. Right. Well, we've actually come near to the end of our time, which is probably a perfect ending there.
Perfect 10. We've overstayed our welcome today.
We have overstayed our welcome, so sorry about that. Right, so we hope you enjoyed this one. Also, we hope you agree with us. If you don't agree with us, though, like, this is a time to plug it. We do have some social media, so we have Twitter and Instagram and stuff. So you can follow us at TG Breakdown on both of those platforms, and tell us if you agree, if you don't agree, if you think we're talking shit, or if you think we're on the money. Let us know, and yeah, let's just hope all those games get remade, but still Croc first.
Yeah, after all that, but like just Croc, yeah?
Yeah, just Croc though. If you just do Croc, that's fine.
Give us the dinosaur.
Yeah,
Give us the crocodile.
what did you say first? Dragon. That was what you said. Croc is where you play as a dragon. I was like, oh, oh, so close.
It's been a long Monday.
Oh my god! Right, we hope you enjoyed listening to this one, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.